So I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. Chris Carrington is the CEO of a company called ServiceSource. Probably many of you in the audience use ServiceSource. ServiceSource is a revenue as a service company, public company that provides managed services around driving more revenue from your clients. And ServiceSource has a ton of experience living a lot of the things we're talking about here. So before Chris comes on, we're going to play a little video.
The world is changing again, and it's changing faster than we can ever think. So I think we have an exciting future with an exciting landscape in front of us. And along the way, of course, there's been a lot of technological innovation, great ideas, new leadership.
Awesome. Join me in welcoming Chris Carrington.
Great honor to come out and to Prince song. It's a great way to get started here. Well, good morning. Welcome to the era of digital Darwinism, a time where technology companies must choose to embrace the changes happening around them and move to a model of customer success or risk extinction. Of course, the Darwinism perspective. This is a time where we no longer define a customer's ability to make your product successful, but your organization's ability to make a customer successful. A time where we live in a world that the perpetual product-based licensing model is fading away, and the subscription-based economy is rapidly emerging. But maybe the best definition is a time in a world in which we live where customers no longer buy product, they buy outcomes. So this morning, I'd like to share 5 best practices that we've seen adapted by a number of technology companies around the world and share 3 use case studies with you. And this is based on ServiceSource's success over the past 17 years as a pioneer of recurring revenue. That seems to be increasingly more important these days. And more recently, an emerging leader in the area of customer success. And while my marketing department, who's somewhere in the room here, would love for me to delve into the slide, I'll spare you the ServiceSource infomercial. So let's talk about pioneers in an industry, and I'm not talking about insurance here, by the way, but I'm talking about the fitness industry. Right? Because this is an industry that introduced 40 years ago the business model of subscriptions. And so we can look back or look at this model as an instructive insight as to what goes right and what goes wrong with the introduction of a new business model. Clearly, over the last 40 years, this is an industry that has made it possible to get away from high startup costs and get easy on. But over these last 4 decades, they've also proven it's been an industry that's been easy to get off. So when you first look at the data around the fitness industry, some of the metrics would suggest great success. The first being there's more than 35,000 clubs alone in North America that serve some 53 million customers who generate $25 billion. I think that's a pretty good SaaS subscription-based model. I think all of us would enjoy those type of revenue numbers. But it's when you look a little deeper into the data that you realize maybe there's a failure in the introduction of this business model. You're looking at a business model where more than 10% of those 35,000 clubs a year go out of business. They shut their doors and no longer have a business in that specific location. You're looking at an industry that's promised to get people stronger, to lose weight, to feel better, and yet their customers only utilize their facilities an average of 1.6 times a week. Now, I don't know, I grew up in the era there was 3 times to maintain, 4 times to gain, so I think they're failing on that aspect too. But maybe the most telling measurement in the fitness industry is this concept that they only retain 72% of their customers on an annualized basis. Now, all of you in the room who believe you could go to your boss and say, hey, we're only going to have 30% attrition and think you could keep your job, raise your hand. I don't see a lot of hands going up because 30% attrition will never work in the technology industry. So this is, once again, fairly instructive that they must need to do something different. And that something different I would propose to this room is the concept of customer success. This is an industry that's been more influenced by getting our credit card and making sure that recurring payment happens every month than truly the outcomes as a customer that I desire. Once again, losing weight, getting stronger, maybe it's finding a date in the gym. But we can learn from this as an industry, as a technology industry, to make sure that we advance forward with those insights. As Darwin taught more than 200 years ago, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but it's the ones that are most adaptive to the changes happening around us. And of course, we live in a world of massive change. We could spend most of the time this morning just talking about probably a dozen different impacts happening to each of us in our respective industry of technology that is happening to us. The concept of consumerization of IT, the proliferation of data, so much data it's suggested that we only really touch about 1% of the data, 99% goes untouched. Or of course this big existential change of the cloud and subscription-based economy. There's the dirty little secret of this where we go from a world that was once we had long-term relationships with our customers for 4 or 5 years to a world in which that relationship is fleeting. It may be for 1 month or 12 months. Needless to say, Darwin taught that organisms change by the influence of outside externalities in our business or in our lives. So let's talk about and kind of summarize very quickly as I get into these 5 best practices and these 3 use case studies, a world before the cloud and a world after the cloud or during the cloud in which we're living. Clearly, we were a world just a few short years ago where we all sold product. We all sold product, moving to a world now where we all sell services. And what does that mean? What's the differentiation? Well, the key differentiation is that at the point of customer acquisition or the original sale, we used to recognize 80% of the lifetime value of that customer. Well, the economic model has changed in a subscription-based economy because now 80%, some would argue even 90%, actually the economics of that lifetime relationship are recognized after the point of original sale. So clearly we have to adjust our focus of how we go to market. Once again, that world of 4-year sticky relationships was great because candidly, after a client spent 3 to 6 months getting up onto our products, if they didn't like it, let's be real. It was kind of so bad, too bad, so sad, right? Because they might complain and not like your product, but they would go to the CFO and the CFO says, hey, we've bought this for 4 years. We've got to depreciate it over 4 years. Go back to your partner and make this product successful. Notice what I said, make this product successful. We're in a world where it's not about the product, it's about the outcomes. And so our organizational structures have had to change. We've gone from organizations who waited for the client, for the customer to call in. They were passive organizations like customer service or customer support or support tickets that came in. Moving to a world where our customer success organizations need to be proactive. They need to be engaging. They need to be reaching out to the customer to ensure that customer success and the outcomes they were looking to achieve are actually happening. And this is really summed up by the bottom line that the burden of success, which was once on our customers to determine the outcome of success, has shifted now to a world where that burden of success is on us as technology partners to enable the outcomes that they're seeking. So now that we've kind of, summarized this changed world of what is occurring to us, let's look at the 5 most common adaptive strategies we've seen across our 75 global customers that they've adapted to ensure customer success going forward. And the first one is all about data. You heard JB refer to this. We've heard about it yesterday. We live in this world, though, where there's so much data. Before the cloud, we really looked at the overall customer relationship value. We segmented our customers in a pyramid fashion, and we had, our biggest customers up top, our enterprise customers, and our commercial mid-market, and maybe our small and consumer customers at the bottom. And we oriented ourselves around that pyramid to how to prioritize our relationships. Of course, that prioritization was probably influenced and changed somewhat based upon the renewal date. The 4-year renewal date was coming up. We had to put together a field sales team or a customer organization inside that could go renew the client. Well, that world has changed because in reality, we were just looking at the tip of the iceberg. In a world where we get access to usage data and support tickets and call data and logins and all like that, it's a matter of deciding which data is most important to look at. We'll never be able to look at all of this, at least not yet. But our experience in working with our clients is maybe the most important data that's arrived just recently, thankfully to the cloud-enabled world and the subscription economy, is usage data. Why usage data? Because usage data points us in the direction of customer behavior, right? No one really has the luxury to talk to all of their customers, but what we do potentially have the luxury to do is understand and study their behavior, of course, across the time of the relationship. And what I mean by that is that the reality is if a customer onboards and adopts the usage of your service, and they're using it within the guardrails of what you would typically expect, you probably don't have time to call them. But the customer that came on, started using the service, and is starting to decline in their usage, they're a churn risk. And as we heard JB said, you can't afford to have those clients churn out of the business. So it might be, based on their behavior, instructive to call those customers now, to help them with onboarding plays or adoption plays or education around the benefits that your offering can give to them. On the contrary, we might look at usage data to identify those super users, those ones who are most likely possible for cross-sell, upsell. So we'll call them now because we see a pattern behavior based upon this usage data that suggests we should call them because it's a good time to grow our revenue. If we look at the second adaptation strategy for customer success, I would suggest to you it's around organization. And that's why a lot of you are in this room at this conference. And that is, this graphic probably just depicts the past very well. It was like herding cats. We had numerous siloed organizations, all with the responsibility and accountability to talk to our clients. Luckily, in the before the cloud world, we had 4 years to figure it out before we really had to get synced up with the client. But in a world which we may only have 360 days, I would recommend to you that we've seen really successful organizations put in place an organization that brings all of this together and that puts a process and approach that really leads to customer success. The third adaptive strategy that we've seen across successful customers is really around process. Once again, once you get all of your data synced up and once you get your right organization in place, it's time to put a playbook in place that really allows your customer success managers to know how to go through the course of the year. Once again, getting this intelligent insight from usage data, be able to use that to help your customers on board and achieve what? Time to value. Because we don't have 4 years anymore. We may only have 360 days. In fact, many of the new entrants are starting to price their services offering on a monthly basis. And so you have even less. And then, of course, over time, you're going to make various plays like retention plays, save plays, but ultimately getting to that point where you can cross-sell and upsell. Number 4, and certainly thanks to our host at Gainsight, who have one of the best technology platforms out there, I thoroughly believe that. We utilize Gainsight with a number of our clients and use a number of other technologies, but it's important to realize the technology in of itself, while is essential to scale your customer success operation, it may not be the holy grail. Because at least in our experience, we use between 6 to 10 different systems that we've had to integrate together that puts us in a position to be a partner with our clients to help their end customers. So this is a big project that you need to get started on, and it offers the hope of scalability, but realize it's not that easy holy grail that you may be looking for. I think fifth and last of important adaptation strategies for customer success is around this concept of measuring outcomes. Last year, we did a co-study with Forbes where we looked across more than 100 different customer success organizations in the technology industry, and we came up with a capabilities maturity model that studied the maturity of an organization's customer success. And you may be rated a 1 where customer success was just accidental. Don't admit that to your boss. Once again, bad way to go. You might be disciplined, where you have a repeatable process that leads you to customer success. Or if you're in the fortunate position and you're down your journey a long way, you might actually be strategic, where you have clear visibility into the overall health of each and every one of your customers. The good news is it doesn't really matter whether you're a 1 or a 5. The most important outcome of the study was this, that whether you're a 2 moving to a 3 or a 3 moving to a 4, the results and the outcomes suggested by moving 1 level in your maturity of customer success, you could pick up 7.9 percentage points of improvement. Well, what does that mean? If you have a $100 million subscription-based business model, and you go through that 360-day life cycle, you're more likely to retain about $7.9 million of that $100 million after 1 year. So this becomes really instructive that, once again, the concept of understanding and measuring our customers' success criteria, their KPIs for the identification of success, is really important. And so once again, we have to mature our organizations to get to that point to understand that. So let me cover the 3 use case studies now that may be instructive. These are real examples that just happened in the first quarter between ServiceSource and some of our clients. This is an example of a Fortune 500 hardware company. Now, most of us in this room would think that we're all software companies in here. But in fact, hardware companies too are making that journey of customer success, and more we're starting to see the introduction of models that move them from a product orientation to a service orientation, all around the concept of consumption-based economics. So whether you're hardware or software, you're part of the customer success journey. This was a situation where 3 years ago, they identified the need to really get their data organized, and we were able to work with them to put all of their data into a single system. In this case, it's actually 14 years of buying behavior of their clients, literally millions of assets purchased over those years, renewals associated with that. And the goal was to try to centralize all of that data and put an organization of virtual sales or virtual customer success in a position that they could understand their customer, their buying behaviors, and that when they reach out to their customer, they could really operationalize that data. Because once again, all that data unavailable to a customer success manager is kind of worthless. Recently, we worked on a transaction with our client, with their end customer, where we were able to look across multiple geographies around the world. We looked at it over 120,000 assets that this end client had purchased over time, and we were able to take a renewal cycle that was suggesting, based upon what the data first thought, was a $6 million opportunity, and just recently closed in this first quarter a $34 million opportunity. And I think this shows the huge potential in front of all of us as it relates to customer success. Across their entire portfolio in which we work with them, which is over $1 billion of assets and revenue, we've been able to increase their overall portfolio by 28%. When you're talking about $1 billion going up 28%, I think that defines customer success. In the second example, this is a software company, one of the largest software companies around the world in which we work with, that obviously wasn't born in the cloud. It was a premise-based product license model software. But they started realizing over the past couple of years that they had to more rapidly move to a cloud-enabled solution. And so in working with them, we created an adaptable business model that was really focused on, once again, customer outcomes and marrying that up with maximizing the customer lifetime value of that relationship. And over the past year, we've been able to demonstrate from a customer success standpoint, which I think is important to all of us because you're going to have to prove this out for your own budgets, that by working with a subset of their clients, this was about 40,000 end customers, that by moving them, helping them migrate to this cloud-based model versus a prem-based model, and focusing on the concepts of onboarding, adoption, cross-sell, upsell, we were actually able to expand the revenue opportunity by some 57%. In this last example of truly Darwinism in action, This is an organization that actually was fundamentally print-based. They had just, in the past couple of years, gone to a model where an information services company, you could download. It wasn't really interactive, and realized their model was quickly dated and that they had to move to truly a subscription-based environment where data was interactive, information was available on a 7x24 basis, it was constantly being updated. Well, in the process of making that move, we were able to sit down with them and look holistically across the essential elements of a customer success model, this being your people, your processes, your technology, much like the 5 best practices I spoke to. And by looking at that, the goal and the outcome in talking with their end customers was really measured by usage. Because this is truly a model where it's a monthly subscription. So if I stop using it pretty quickly, I just shut off the payment. And so they determined that the ultimate success was measured by increasing the users to an acceptable level of daily, weekly, and monthly usage. And through designing a series of onboarding plays and adoption plays, over the course of time, we were able to increase their active users by some 33%. So in closing, with a couple of slides, I'll leave you a couple of quick thoughts. First of all, we call it the 3 E's: engagement, expansion, and extension. It's the entire world in front of us post the initial sale or initial customer acquisition. It's what you've heard from the panels this morning, that it's all about increasing the potential of your customer relationships through having an appropriate process, an appropriate use of data, an organization, a technology platform, and specific outcomes that are measurable by your customer success managers that allow you to go through the course of that 360-day cycle, ensuring customer success. And I'd leave you with this. One of my favorite phrases: every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning a lion wakes up and knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. Doesn't matter whether you're a lion or a gazelle, when the sun comes up, you better be running. Whether you're a hardware company, a software company, an information services company, I know this: there are new entrants coming onto the playing field or the prairies every single day of our lives. And we all have to be ready. And I'll suggest to you that customer success is that pathway to surviving, whether you're a gazelle or a lion. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Awesome. Wow. I'm glad I don't live in the jungle. I can't run at all, so I would be eaten very quickly. So great talk. Thank you so much.